Gentleman from New York.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, the author of this bill, Mr. Cuellar.
The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar, recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I want to thank the ranking member, Mr. Engel, for yielding to me, but also for his leadership in bringing this, helping to bring this bill on the floor. I want to thank you and your staff for the wonderful work that you have done. Chairman Royce, I also want to thank you and your staff for your leadership. Both you and Ranking Member Engel, we spoke a lot about this bill and why it's important that we pass this particular bill. I also want to thank my colleagues, also Representative Castro, who helped on this bill, Speaker Mr. Poe. I also want to thank you all for this work in the committee, and Representative McCall for signing on as a bipartisan measure. And in fact, the next few days on Friday, Representative McCall, myself, and a delegation will be going over to Mexico for the swearing in. And I think this is a very appropriate time, Mr. Engel, as you mentioned, to have this bill to send this positive message. This bill is important for many ways. It's a bipartisan legislation that promotes mutual national security interests and economic partnership and cooperation between the United States and Mexico, with a focus in the energy, the health, entrepreneurship, and education sectors. Mexico is one of the United States' top trading partners, with an estimated of $615 billion in a two-way trade between these two countries, which means that every day there is more than $1.3 billion of trade between the U.S. and Mexico. That means that every single minute you're talking about more than $1 million of trade between the U.S. and Mexico every single minute, and this is why it's very important to have this type of relationship. As the chairman mentioned a few minutes ago, in 2015-2016 academic year, according to the Institute of International Education, more than 56,000 United States students studied in other countries in the Western Hemisphere, while more than 84,000 non-U.S. students from that region studied in the U.S. However, there are only 5,000 of those United States students that studied in Mexico, and only 16,000 of those non-U.S. students that were from Mexico. And this is why we need to do more to increase our educational exchange with our very important trading partner. Specifically, this bill establishes that it should be the policy of the United States to continue deepening the economic cooperation between the United States and Mexico, and to expand the educational and professional exchange programs with our neighbors to the south. In order to do this, it would require the Secretary of State to develop a strategy that, one, encourages more academic exchanges between the two countries at the secondary, post-secondary, postgraduate levels, especially with communities in the southern border region. Number two, it would encourage the United States and Mexican academic institutions and businesses to collaborate to train aspiring entrepreneurs. Number three, would promote energy infrastructure coordination and cooperation through the support of vocational education, internships, and exchanges between both countries. And number four, it accesses the feasibility of fostering binational partnerships between the United States, between universities and medical school and nursing programs, and that's a natural fit that we can do with those, with that particular neighbor to the south. So again, if we increase academic exchanges at universities that we have in Texas and across California, New Mexico, and Arizona and other parts, that basically means that we will better prepare our students for success in the workplace, increase job opportunities for those areas and the small businesses along the border. Again, to conclude, I want to thank the chairman, the Foreign Affairs Committee, Chairman Ed Royce. Again, you're very passionate about Mexico, and I thank you for that passion, and I thank you for that. My ranking member, Eliot Engel, again, you're very passionate. I think this is something that we feel very important about Mexico, and thank you for advancing this bill through the committee. And again, to the staff, both on the Republican side and on the Democrat staff, I want to thank you. So to conclude, I encourage my colleagues to support this important piece of legislation, and I look forward to seeing this bill pass into law. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back his time.